In the last 2 weeks, I've read 5 thriller books, and I'm going to rank them from the absolute worst to the ones I would absolutely recommend. And you're going to want to stick around for the last one because it is a 5-star read. If you're new here, my name's Jess and I read and review thriller books, and I tell you the ones that are actually worth your time and your money. I've just realised that quite a few of these books were actually library books. The top one was a library book as well. It wasn't Frida, it's just a random thriller book I put on top of the stack. So I had actually 4 library books, but I saw these and they gave me spooky season vibes. So I wanted to read them to let you guys know whether they are worth it. So let me put this stack down and we will get into the first book. So the first book I don't have a physical copy of because it went back to the library, but it was Runtime by Catherine Ryan Howard. I picked this one up purely because of the cover. I mean, it is absolutely stunning, but I've got to be honest guys, this one disappointed me. I rated it 2-star, and that is very uncommon for me. So the plot sounded really promising. It's about this actress, Adele, who's moved to America after finishing filming for a TV series, and she's not had any work in about 6 months, and she receives this random call from someone. It's a small producer in the Western Island, she's from Ireland, and they're basically putting together this new film, and she's been offered a role to be like the new lead star in it because the previous one couldn't make it. So she flies from America to Ireland the next day to start the filming for this show, and it is set in the most creepy setting ever. It's like this kind of derelict track that leads up to this big house, and it's in a forest, and it's all the spooky season vibes. And then the events in the actual script of the film start happening in real life, and she gets really, really freaked out by it. So based on that, I had a lot of hope in this book because it just sounded really good. I think the fact that I kept putting off reading it for a while kind of should have been a sign that I might not have enjoyed it, I don't know. So yeah, the kind of premise of the book was really good, kind of in struggling actress, isolated location, movie set, kind of all them spooky events, but I was just a bit disappointed by it. Like, I did debate DNF in it, but I wanted to kind of see it through in case it got any better. But I did find myself kind of like skipping chunks of the like descriptive paragraphs just to kind of get through it a bit quicker. Like, I was just hoping that something was going to happen. Like, the first 200 pages were pretty slow for me personally. I guess the suspense, it wasn't that suspenseful. There were a few twists, but they weren't really that twisty. I was a bit just like, oh, that's the twist, right, okay. I did like the dual perspective, so you've got Adele, the actress's point of view, and then you've also got the script at the same time going on, so I did like that aspect. But overall, it was just a bit of a flop for me, so I gave that one 2 stars. It's okay though, because we're going worst to best, so it can only get better from here. The next book was Middle of the Night by Riley Sager, and I had such high hopes for this one. I think because I read The Only One Left just before this one, I think he'd set the bar really, really high because I loved that one. This one wasn't as good. So the plot is basically about this boy called Billy who disappeared 30 years ago. He was camping in a tent in his garden with his best friend Ethan at the time. Ethan moves back to his old house in the same street where his best friend disappeared, and he kind of starts investigating who's behind it and what actually happened all them years ago. It felt like a pretty slow start to the book, if I'm honest. There was a lot of kind of like background character and plot building just so you know what had happened. Kind of set in this like secluded out of town, like not private estate, but them sort of vibes. So I think there was about 6 to 10 houses in their little area, and it's got a dual timeline. So you flip from the day before Billy went missing, which has got like hourly timestamps of what's going on in the day, and then you flip back to the present day with Ethan being in the original house he lived in when Billy went missing. It's kind of alternating chapters between that. There is a kind of a slight paranormal, spooky element to it, but I can't say too much more about that because it will kind of give away a bit of a twist or a plot point in this. So if you're looking for something that is kind of spooky season vibes, this one definitely. That is kind of why I got this, because the cover is just giving spooky season. I also found there was a lot of reference to calling characters weird, which I don't know if I liked that, I'm not sure. Yeah, it was still a good book. It just wasn't as good as Riley Sager's other book I read. So do with that what you will. The next book is The Trap by Catherine Ryan Howard, and I have seen this one a few times online, and I've heard pretty good things about it. This one I kind of impulsively picked up at the library purely based on the fact I'd heard good things. So I gave this book a 3.5 stars in the end. I loved the original concept of this book. So it's basically about a stranded female on the side of a road who's trying to catch a lift on this like dark secluded street to try and get back to her house. But she's actually trying to find the man who kidnapped her sister. So her sister got kidnapped from the side of the road a few years ago, and she's trying to basically do the same thing her sister did to try and get picked up on the side of the road to find her sister. So she's a bit of maybe an odd one, but I guess traumatic events do things like that to you. But I wasn't expecting this to turn into a police investigation book. I thought it would be the main character Lucy just hopping in and out of random men's cars until one of them turns out to be the man who took her sister, and then she'd somehow get there and found a way to escape for them. Yeah, it turned into a police investigation. And I actually love police investigation books, so for me, I did not mind this at all. But about the 80 pages mark, you have 3 different perspectives going on. So you have Lucy, who is the sister to Nikki, and Nikki is the one that got kidnapped. You have Angela, who is kind of a police admin staff member. And you've got this man's perspective, who I presume is the kidnapper. And he's kind of like just giving this internal monologue. It's kind of giving like Joe from You vibes. If you've watched that, you'll know exactly what I mean. There were a few twists in this, which I wasn't expecting. But I think what took the rating down for me was the ending. It kind of didn't make sense, and I went down like a big Reddit rabbit hole trying to piece together the ending because it just confused me a bit. But if you read it and you might understand it better than me, it could just be me. It wasn't quite a 4-star, but it wasn't quite a 3-star. That's how I settled on the 3.5 for this one. The next book was Every Move You Make by C.L. Taylor, and I put off reading this for so long, and I regret it, I'm going to be honest. If you see me looking down, it's because my cat is sat right next to my camera and I don't trust if she's going to knock it over. So if we've got some slightly wobbly footage, that is why. Blame the cat. So this book would actually be a perfect October read because it is set in October. So in the chapters you have actually got little countdowns and the dates that they're set on. So this page is the 11th of October and it's got 9 days until someone dies. So the plot basically follows 5 main characters and they're all being stalked by a different person from their past, and they basically form a support group to kind of help and support each other. And then one of the group, Nat, she is brutally murdered, and then the other 4 in the group, they all go to her funeral and they get given a bunch of flowers, and on the note of the flowers is a countdown saying 10 days until one of you dies. So I really love the kind of countdown and race against time aspect of this book. I think it kept me pretty gripped on it, and I was kind of like racing through to the end because I wanted to know what was going to happen on the day that someone was going to die. And each of the characters, they kind of had like a partner or a housemate or someone else they were living with, and they were kind of interweaved into the storylines as well, which I thought was really cool. It didn't really have any like huge twists in it, but there were a few smaller ones. And I think the pacing of this one was pretty good as well. There were some longer chapters, there were some pretty short chapters, like some of them were like 3 pages. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this one for October. Not so because of the vibes, but more so because it is set in October. So I feel like that's the perfect time to read this one. And this one was a 4-star rating. And the last book in this video, we have got The Last Thing to Burn by Will Dean. This one, I feel like calling this book amazing is wrong because of the kind of emotional subjects and topics the book covers. But it was such a good book. Like, it was kind of emotional and an upsetting thriller, but it was really, really well written. Now, I'm going to caveat this one. There are some definite content warnings to be aware of before you read this book. So it's got trafficking, it's got sexual assault, it's got kidnapping, abuse, an absolutely mangled ankle, which is very descriptive. So they're just some things to be aware of if you're going to read this book. So even in like the first 20 pages of this book, you've got some proper like gory descriptions of this woman called Jane. Her name's not actually Jane, but I'll get onto that. And her descriptions of her ankle, which has been absolutely, basically brutally destroyed. That kind of sets the scene of the kind of life and situation she is dealing with. And the kind of goriness of it continues through the book. So I'd say if you don't like the kind of gory, descriptive, medical stuff, maybe give this one a miss. But then saying that, I don't usually like that sort of stuff. I was kind of just grimacing at some of the bits, but I still got through it because I was proper rooting for this main character. So the FMC, she is Vietnamese. I'm not going to try and pronounce her actual name because I will butcher it. But it is spelled T-H-A-N-H. She goes by Jane in this book. She's known as Jane, but that's not her real name. So she was trafficked into the country from Vietnam, and she was promised a house, a job, and in return she would pay off her debt for them getting her into the country. And then you have Len, who is the MMC. He is unhinged, psychotic, controlling. He is everything you never want to see in a man. He has mutilated Jane's ankle and basically kept her hostage as a kind of housemaid servant to him. And his mum was actually called Jane, so that is why he calls the female character Jane. And Jane has to wear all her mum's clothes, do everything as Len's mother used to do it. If I had to describe this one in 3 words, I think gory, graphic, and emotional would be the 3 I'd choose. It's not really got any plot twists in it. There's kind of 1 or 2 at the end, I'd say. But the theme and the story are intense enough that you really do not need any twists in it. It is such an intense book. It's only 240 pages, but honestly, I don't think it needed to be any longer than that. Giving this a 5-star rating kind of feels wrong, just because of all the subject matter that's in it, but it was such a well-written book. Obviously be mindful of the content warnings I said about at the start when I spoke about this, but this is definitely a kind of gory, spooky season 1 that I definitely recommend. So that is my ratings of the last thriller books I read. Let me know if you've read these ones and what rating you gave them. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more thriller book reviews and recommendations. I'll see you next time.